Greetings everyone, I am Princess Erica El Nonong. In behalf of my group, I will discuss the introduction and the material of the Lesson 3 Architecture. So first, what are the objectives? So at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to explain how the form of architecture affects the use of a structure and to describe traditional modern styles of architecture and the effects of the Industrial Revolution on architecture. And the last one, we have to the students will be able to explain how architecture acts as a reflection of culture. So we are going to proceed to the introduction of this lesson, which is the architecture. So the architecture is similar to sculpture that it creates three-dimensional objects that occupy a given space and to create a visual relationship with the space around them. The differences between the sculpture and architecture are in their scale and utility. So in early human structures, the shelter provided as from the elements. So before in the hunter-gatherer societies transitioned to farming, they made more permanent shelters, eventually formed communities, towns, and cities. So as for the nagkataas ang year, ang tuig, ang need sa tao is nagkadako sad. So for thousands of years, architecture reflected the specific environment and materials available in any given region. And it includes rock caves or huts of woods, soil, and bricks. So makita na to sa una, ang mga balay is made of ano pa lang, bricks, and napajud to made of grass. So many were assemblages of materials like grasses, leaves, and animal hides. So kasagaran before sa hunter-gatherer societies, ang ilang mga ang ilahang mga houses or ilang mga shelter are made of grasses or leaves. And for thousands of years, nagka-develop so na natong rock caves, huts of wood, so na mga woods, then soil and bricks. These materials are still utilizes most usually in nomadic people or those people who move from one place to another. So next we have in simple design terms, architecture adheres to the dictum that form follows function because architecture's function is to reflect different human needs. For example, the basic example of this is the warehouses. So the warehouses take the shape of large squares or rectangles. So makita nato sa to mga warehouses diri or sa to ang mga malls na kasagaran rectangle or square iyang shape. It is because they need only to enclose a space that protects and stores products and materials in most efficient manner. So most of the products mangod nga nasa sulod sa store, di ba, or sa mall kay mga dapat dili sila may direct sa sunlight up to like 30 degrees and ana. So that's why the architectures or the function of architectures reflects the different human needs. So nagadepende ang function sa architecture sa panginahanglan sa tao. That's why most of the warehouses or sa mga malls na naga-store of food or products, materials sa sulod is most of it are shaped like a large squares or rectangles. So For example, also is a home is designed with other functions in mind, including cooking, resting, cleaning, and entertaining. That's why sa isa ka balay na adjud ng living room, kitchen, nanang mga kwarto. It is because, diba sa balay dili lang man jud ka sige katulog. So that's why naa ang architecture nga maga-reflect jud sa different human needs. That's why na ang kitchen para na ay malutuan, na ay living room to kanang para malingkod-lingkodan nimo kung gusto mo magtanaw TV, television, and na ay dining area kung asa mo mangaon, ug napay sala gusto mo og place to para malanghap ninyo ang fresh na hangin, no? So the interior design of a home includes specialized areas for these different functions. That's why ang interior design sa balay naga-specialize siya og different areas and different functions. That's why na ay kwarto na ay, diba sa isa ka balay na ay tinaglima or tulo ka kwarto, na ay kitchen, dining area, living room, and many more. So, a church or a school design would have their own set of spatial requirements because they provide for large groups of people at once. So, muna ginaingon, form follows function ang architecture, and it reflects in different human needs. So that's why ang school is dili siya pwede gamay ang iyang space or iyahang spatial ang iyahang space or iyahang pagka-design niya. It is because dili lang man ang maadtog eskwelahan is 10 lang ka buok, 5 or 15. Nay uban classroom abot sila 45, 55 like ana. And sa church also napod siya different set of spatial requirements. So ang architecture is base na siya kung unsa ang need sa tao. So ang school, church, warehouses, houses, like kanang mga plaza, like lahi na siya og spatial requirements. So it depends on the number of people nga ma-provide ana. So next, so example of it is the Gothic church. The Gothic church or the school in Manila or different school nga ato ang makita is diba dako na may gamay pero nagadepende pod siya sa lugar na gitukudan. Like for example, for the kindergarten, the preschool of Barangay Science. So gamay ra siya, it is because gamay ra ang bata nga mag-eskwela ana. So architecture solves problems concerning the use of space, interior design, and the landscape that surrounds it. The limitations imposed on architecture by the laws are solved to a large extent by engineering. So that's why dili dali mamata-mata lang nimo ang paghimo sa isa ka building. It is because it needs it needs to be studied. Kailangan siya studihan, kailangan pod siya gamitan og measurement para matansya jud nimo or ma-measure jud nimo kung unsa ang dapat kadako ang kailangan. So next, we are here now in the methods and materials. So human na nato gi-explain kung unsa ang importance of the importance of architecture and the function of the architecture na ma-relate na to sa ato ang mga needs sa people, human needs. So now we are here now in methods and materials. So the basic methods in building design and construction have been used for thousands of years. stacking stones, laying bricks, or lashing wood together in one form or another are still used today in all parts of the world. So, as I have sa akong na-mention kaganina nga sa wala pa na mention ay wala pa na discover ang stacking of stones, laying bricks, and lashing of woods, ang mga man caves or ginatawag na to nga sa una nagapuyo lang sa caves, so mo na ilang ginagamit na shelter. Then as the time passed by, naka sila nga ay pwede man di gamiton ang mga grass, mga leaves na himuon og balay na isumpay-sumpay lang, o di ba? So for 1,000 of years na ni agi na, so nadiha na ang mga stacking of stones. Makita na to nakasagaran sa Greek, di ba? Kasagaran laying bricks and lashing of woods together in one form or another are still used today. So, but over the centuries, innovation, so, muna akong giningon nga, 4,000 of years, but over the centuries, na ang mga tao is, samtang dako ilahang needs, naga complex pod ang ilahang panginahanglan, or the innovations in methods and materials have given new expression to architecture and the human footprint on the landscape. So we can look to historical examples for clues that give context to different style periods. So here in the PowerPoint, the picture, kay makita ninyo sa picture nga unsa man ni nga picture. So the picture, it is one of the earliest settlements with permanent structures, and it was discovered at Catalhoyuk in Turkey. So in Western culture, one of the earliest settlements with permanent structures was discovered in Turkey. So the rich soil that surrounds the settlement indicates the inhabitants relied in part of farming. So dated up to about 7,500 BCE, the dwellings are constructed from dried mud and brick and show wooden support beams spanning the ceiling. So ang iyahang makita ninyo sa picture is, makita ninyo diha ang dried mud or kanang nauga nga lapok. So kanang murag brown diha sa iyahang tamakanan mo na ang nauga nga lapok, then gianuhan siya bricks, and kanang sa taas niya is a wooden support beam spanning the ceiling. So di ba kuyo kaayo ang kanang architecture nga to na ko kanang building lang na glass, so dili di ay. So the design of the settlement incorporates a cell-like structure of small buildings, either sharing common walls or separated by a few feet. So the roofs are flat and were used as pathways between buildings. So the significant advance came with the development of the post and lintel system. With this, a system of posts, either stone or wood, are placed at intervals and spanned by beams at the top. So it is its earliest use is seen as Stonehenge, or below a prehistoric monument in southern England dating to about 3,000 BCE. So as you can see in the picture, dried mud ang gigamit ana, then ang ceiling niya is a wood, kahoy. So next we have a colonnade continues, and a colonnade continues the post and lintel method as a series of columns and beams enveloping larger areas of space. So, the colonnades can be freestanding or part of a larger structure. So the colonnade can be it can be it is a series of columns and beams that form part of a larger structure. So as you can see in the picture, there are a series or a column of beams there. An extension of the post and lintel method for doors and windows. So di ba makita na to ron sa ato ang doors or sa kanang mga sa window or sa door kanang likod sa atong portahan, di ba na imura og kanang mga altar. So mo na ang murag na adapt karon nagikan ani nga structure. Samantag altar, hala kuyawan ng altar ana. So it is used to support ana like that. So it is common in Egyptian, Greek and Roman architectural design. So kasagaran nato ni makita ni kani nga architectural design is sa dibayon ko niya sa Greek, Roman or sa Egypt. So their use creates visual rhythm and implies a sense of grandeur. Over time, columns became categorized by the capital style at their tops. The smooth and unadorned Tuscan and fluted Doric columns give way to more elaborate styles. The scrolled Lonial, and the high relief Corinthians. So that's is the colonnade. So again, the colonnade is a series of columns and beams that form part of a larger structure. So next we have the Greek and Roman capitals, the top row. So this is the Tuscan. As you can see in the picture, the form of Tuscan, Doric, the middle row, Ionic, bottom row, Corinthian, and a composite Ionic Corinthian. So, a colonnade continues or nagpadayon the post and lintel method as a series of columns and beams enveloping larger areas and space. So, ang kani siya, makita nato ni siya kasagaran, di ba, pag magtanaw ta og Greek mga salida sa Greek or Roman o mga Egyptian ang mga movie, di ba makita na to, like for example si katong unsa na nga salida ha, basta about Roman kanang mga empire like that. So makita na to na ana nga building kanang nasa picture. So that is called Parthenon kanang nasa picture kaning sa ubos. So that is called Parthenon. It is a Greek temple to the mythic goddess Athena. So, diba? It was built in the 5th century BCE in Athens and is part of a larger community of structures in the Acropolis. It is also all are considered pinnacles of classic Greek architecture. So this Greek architecture, it is called Parthenon, and it is a Greek temple to the mythic goddess Athena. So we are all familiar about Athena, no, the goddess of beauty ba na siya. And it was built in 5th century BCE in Athens. So Ionic colonnades march across all sides of the Parthenon, the outer boundary of a very ordered interior floor plan. So, very smart jud og very creative ang nag-build ani nga Greek architecture kaning Parthenon. So next we have di ba? So you can see this is the floor of the Parthenon. the Greek temple. So that is the Greek temple, no? So next we have the Saint Peter's Square in the Vatican, Rome. So mga Roman ang naa diri, ang mga Roman people. So ganina nato sa Greek, so karon na napunta sa Rome. So the materials, the methods and materials are that they used in, di ba nindot kaayo o ang Saint Peter's Square in the Vatican, Rome. So very, kung maingon pa ta aesthetic, kuan siya kanang like vintage iyang design. So very creative and indot jud kaayo ang design ani Saint Peter Square in the Vatican. So mao na siya. So this picture, it is a colonnade. It is the colonnade that is part of our contemporary surroundings too. So this one, parks and other public spaces uses them to the same effect, providing visual and material stability in spanning areas of open space. So, di ba, ginagamit siya for open spaces. Open spaces and spanning areas. So the development of the arc gave architecture new alternatives to post and lintel construction. So this picture appeared as early as the 2nd millennium BC in Mesopotamian brick architecture. So nindot kaayo siya guys do. Then they supply strength and stability to walls without massive posts and beams because their construction minimizes the shear load imposed on them. So they supply strength and stability to walls without massive posts and beams. So wala siya bakal, wala siya atong beams na ginatawag nato. Wala siya nato. So pure kasagaran jud ani is bricks or stones ilang gigamit. This meant walls could go higher without compromising their stability, at the same time create larger areas of the open space between arcs. In addition, the arc gave buildings more organic, expressive visual elements. So, very organic siya. It is because wala siya gigamit na beams. Gamit nila ani kasagaran is bricks, stones, or naapod siguro ni dried mud. So the picture in my PowerPoint, it is the Colosseum in Rome in 1st century CE. So it was built in the 1st century, and it is uses repeated arches to define an imposing but decidedly airy structure. So you can see, wala na human guys, no? Pero gituyo jud na siya. It is because ang ilahang tuyo ani is to have an airy structure or open space. So mura jud siya wala gihuman, pero gituyo jud na siya wag inana iyang design. So the fact that it's still standing today is testament to the inherent strength of the ark. So until now, kanang building kana Colosseum in Rome. So nagtindog pa na siya until now. So di ba jud na to maisip gyud sa kaya. Grabe ang niya ang stability and strength nga magtindog bisan wala mo siya wala gihuman. So very organic and expressive iyang visual element. So next we have the Roman aqueduct. So the Roman aqueducts are another example of how effectively the arc was used. Tall and graceful, the arches supports themselves in a colonnade and were used to transport a network of water channels throughout ancient room. So this in the picture, it is also one of the example on how architect before effectively used the arc. Di ba? It is, nagtindog siya diha ang tall and graceful. So, from extending an arc in a linear direction formed a vault, encapsulating tall, narrow spaces with inverted U-shaped ceilings. The compressive force of the vault required thick walls on each side to keep it from collapsing. So, because of this, many vaults were situated underground, essentially tunnels. So, don't any ano is tunnels connecting areas of a larger building, providing covered transport of people, goods, materials throughout the city. So next we have an arc rotated on its vertical axis creates a dome with its curving organic scoop of space reserved for the top of the most important building. So the Pantheon in Rome has a dome with an oculus around an elliptical opening at the top. That is the massive building's only light source. An arc rotated on its vertical axis, a dome it creates a dome with its curving section reserved a special reverential places. So next we have the Romanesque architecture, and it was popular for nearly 300 years, about 800 to 1100 CE. So these buildings reached a point where they struggled to support with their own height. So as you can see in the picture, it looks like the buildings um gihimo ni siya. It is because the buildings reached a point where they struggled to support their own height. So the solution was a flying buttress. So tungod sa kataas sa building, niabot sila sa point nga na nag-struggle sila nga para i-support good ang weight sa building. So mo to na ang mga architect that time nakaisip sila og solution, and it is a design, and it was called a flying buttress. As you can see in the picture, mura ra siya kanang arc sa kilid nga para jud siya nag-support ana magud na siya sa mo ni siya ang sa tunga ang mura og kanang ang building. So as nagkataas siya, naglisod na siya og support siyang own weight. So ilahang gibutangan og flying buttress, an exterior load bearing column connected to the main structure by segmented arc or flyer. So 'di ba kung ikaw dili ka makaisip is mura ra jud mo siya, kung sa atwa pa is mura ra siya mo gibutangan og kahoy sa kilid para masuportahan ang building. Mura ko ka na ginahimo sa panday support. So ang kanilang is in creative way. So muna ginatawag na flying buttress. So an exterior load bearing column that is connected to the main structure by the segmented arc or flyer. So very in that kind. So next we have the Saint Denis Basilica in France. It is one of the first Gothic-style churches. So kung mag-search mo o Gothic-style churches, mo na amang labas ka na mura siya na something sa taas. Kan mga picture-picture or something ana glass. It is known for its vaulted ceilings and extensive use of stained glass. O, di ba? Stained glass windows. The architecture of the church became a symbol of spirituality itself. It is soaring heights, elaborate lighting, and sheer grandeur on a massive scales. So, di ba, the more taas ang building is dili siya ngit-ngit tan-awon, but the more magtaas ang building, og di ba ang iya pong stained glass sa iyang window is mao po nakadugang or nakadugang siya sa light sa sulod sa simbahan. So di ba maanuhan na to, kita na to usay nga basta gamay ang building is ngit-ngit siya, labi na pud og walay ka open or walay ka ang close tanan ang window. So So next we have the Doge's Palace in Venice, Italy. It housed the political aristocracy of the Republic of Venice for 1,000 years. So, of 1,000 years, it was built in 1300 CE. Its rhythmic levels of columns and pointed arches are divided by fractals as they rise. The pink bricks, facades, ornamental additions reinforce the patterns below. So, this architectural design, it is diri ang mga aristocrat, political aristocrat sa Venice, sa Republic of Venice, meron silang mo nilang housed. So for 1,000 of years. So kana ang mga it was built in 1300 CE. So nindot kayo iyang design. So in overall, since ang architecture is nagre-reflect jud siya sa needs sa mga tao, so samtang naga-develop or ang ato ang technology is naga-innovate pod, ang innovation is nagaano pod, ang development is naa jud na always, dili jud na siya ma-stagnant. Development naa jud na siya always, present jud na siya in every situation, na jud na ang development. So from rock caves, from there to bricks, then maabot pa jud na siya sa mga glasses, and naabot na siya sa beams, mga bakal, and mga glasses. Nindot na kayo. Sa una is lang na ay ang mga nomads people or katong mga those people na naga-move from other places, is ang ilalang is walay window ilang balay, and it was made of grasses, leaves na ilang gipilit-pilit lang, o mura siya gisablay sa ilahang gihimo nga kahoy. Ilahang form na pattern sa kahoy. So di ba from there nga walay window, from katong example na to kaning Saint Denis Basilica nga nindot kayo ang iyahang stained glass windows, di ba? From from rocks and kanang grasses, leaves, or kanang from grasses, leaves, and kanang mga kanang mga panit ba na kay also man sa ila sound na nagahunt para mabuhi sila. So from there to ang innovation present man, so ang method and materials is naga-develop. So that's why ang architectural design karon is naga-develop sad. Sa una walay bubong, di ba? Walay bubong. But now nakita na to ang different styles, and also naga-based pod ang design sa ang architectural design sa space na gamiton sa tao. So if kanang ang lugar is daghan siya tao and need siya og ang church is need siya og dako na space, why not dako po that's why ang iyaha pong spatial requirements, or that's why ang architecture is mag-architecture is naga-study, ano po sila measurement para ma-measure kung unsa ka dako ug unsa ka taas ang mabuhat sa building. And that's all for the introduction and the methods of and materials of the architecture. So the remaining topics will be discussed by my group mates, and that um, is the architecture in China and East Asia, the cross-cultural influences on architecture, the architecture and the Industrial Revolution, and the modern architecture, a new language, and also the post-modern and contemporary architecture. So those topics will be discussed by my group mates, and that's all for my topic. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Nakidima Saudling, and today I am going to discuss my topic, which is the architecture in China and East Asia. Since we are done discussing the materials and methods of architecture, let us proceed to this topic. So, traditional Chinese design is based on symmetry, a general emphasis on the horizontal and site level layout. So, Chinese architecture refers to a style of architecture that has taken shape in East Asia over many centuries. So, they focus on symmetry because it is important for them to have a good shape of their architectural design. So, when we say symmetry, Kinesia is having the same size, shape, of the material that they use for their architecture. So, an example is if they cut a wooden material or any type of material, it is important na they cut it equally in order to have the same sizes and the same shape. And also, these considerations result in formal and stylistic differences in comparison to the West. So, because of they focus in symmetry, it makes their architectural design resulting in more formal and stylistic. So, more realistic siya because they focus on the creativity and parang the same ang mga sizes sa materials para once it is done parang malinis sa paningin ng mga tao. And also it differs from the west architecture because in this architecture of China and East Asia, it result in the more formality and more creative design that they provide. The Chinese have used stone, brick, and wood for centuries. So, stone and brick and wood are their best used materials over the centuries. So, an example of their architecture is the Great Wall. The Great Wall was intended to keep nomadic invaders out of northern China. The rigid material takes on a more flexible appearance as it conforms to the contours of the landscape. So, as we notice the arcs in the tower, so it is the Great Wall. Its purpose is not just only for architecture but also kinig gibuhat in order nga walay bisan kinsa nga mga tao to invade the northern China. And also the Great Wall is one of the most successful and most known architecture of the ancient Chinese. So, its appearance, parang if we don't know that it is a great wall, parang ma-amaze ta because of the design, the creativity in the arcs in the tower. But on the other hand, it is for the defense of the people in Chinese. And also, it was built on the largely 3rd century BCE that stretches over defensive walls and was extended again during the Han Dynasty. So, and their architecture, they differ on grades, classes, forms, and uses. So, parang naay sila ginabasihan in order to create this type of architecture because it is not only architecture itself, but it is also for the protection of the people in the Northern Asia para walay basta-basta maka-enter sa ilang lugar. And another example is the Zhaozhou Bridge. It is the oldest standing bridge in China and was built more than 600 years ago. It uses stone barrel, vaults, arcs to Spansha River, a tributary of Yangzhuang River, one of the China's busiest rivers. As we can observe in the image, the Zhaozhou Bridge is an example of efficient design and flawless craftsmanship with materials. So, its design is really needed for that type of materials in order to build a bridge. And also, since nagigamit nila are ang mga materials na really kanang materials na kinahanglan jud in order to build a bridge, so it result na it is the oldest standing bridge in China. It uses stone. So because of the stonesmith work, so of course they always celebrated for its priciness and ingenuity. The use of wood also as a primary construction material is the hallmark of traditional Chinese architecture. So these Zhaozhou Bridge have the two smaller arcs at the edge at the end. So as we can observe na ay mga arc at the very end of the bridge. So they are called arcs. So the four side of arcs effectively reduce the impact of the water on the bridge in the event of flooding because water can pass through the side arcs. So na ay purpose nga nung there nganong na ay duha ka arc at the different side of the bridge in order also para pag in case there is flash floods nga mahitabo, the water can flow easily dito sa mga arcs. And also another merit building side arc is economy. So because the Zhaozhou Bridge foundation is extremely solid and its weight is estimate incredibly accurate. So, mostly na material na ginagamit is the stone. So, they give credit to the stonesmen because it helped them it helped dili lang sa mga tao but also in the animals who will across the bridge to help them cross the bridge easier. So it is not only for the architectural purpose but also the Zhaozhou bridge is really built para to be used every day of the people in China for them to across the bridge in the more easier way. And also Zhaozhou bridge has an artistic simplicity. So if you can see the image, it has the beautiful resemblance a crescent moon. So parang naay a crescent moon in the beautiful arc of the bridge. And also the carved dragons and beasts on the bridge are vivid and each has its own unique look. So this Zhaozhou bridge, if ma-observe natin, parang simple ra siya tan-awon but the materials behind is really gipag-isipan jud and was planned carefully in order to last for more than 600 years ago. So, it is really useful in everyday life of the people in China. Not only the people who will across the bridge, but also even other animals such as horses. The next example is the Hall of Divine Might. So, cantilever and dogong. It is the triangular brackets are used to support heavy loads at the corners. The hall in Beijing, China exemplifies these characteristics. As we can observe in the image, so there is a cantilever and dogong. When we say cantilever, it is an extension or overhang without exterior basing. So, we can really observe na sa photo na siya extension. Extension from both sides nga we don't see any exterior basing. Because instead of exterior basing, they use corbel brackets or dogong. When we say corbel brackets or dogong, it is a triangular braces that help support heavy loads at the corners. So, it is an aid sa extension, extension or overhang in order na dili siya mag-go down, parang dili siya mag-collapse because they use corbel brackets or dogong. So example of this is the hall in Beijing where it exemplifies this characteristic. So the Chinese engineered um, the cantilever bracket system to provide buildings with sweeping roof overhang that commonly turn upwards at the corner. So, di ba, parang ang overhang sa gilid sa roof is upward at the both corners. So, these cantilevered roofs appear to float above the main structure and reinforce the focus on a horizontal symmetry. So, so 'di ba, naka-focus ang architecture of China and East Asia sa symmetry. So, even in this cantilever and dogong, they really focus on the horizontal symmetry. So, the Hall of Divine Might is located in the Forbidden City in Beijing that exemplifies these design characteristics. Next is the Sagami Temple detail. So Chinese architecture influenced all of East Asian design over hundreds of years. The same elements and characteristics can be seen in traditional architecture from Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. Bright colors and intricate designs dominate many traditional Chinese buildings as well as modern skyscrapers and other high-rise buildings. So, because of the effective and successful architecture of Chinese, it influenced many places of East Asian design, such as Japan, Korea, and Vietnam, of its elements and characteristics. So, because of makita nga, the architecture of China is very beautiful. It is useful not just for architectural purposes, but also for the everyday living of the people for their defense. So, it happened na naka-influence siya sa other places sa East Asia. So, those are the Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. So, an example is the Sagami Temple. So, it has bright colors. So, as we can observe in the image, its decoration is implicit, such as in Chinese architecture. They had bright colors that dominate many traditional buildings and enhance the look of exposed timbers. So, um, another factor is using variety of colors. Of course, in an architecture, they really consider color. If how it looks like when they put the different colors and its overall view. And also, the Sagami Temple in Japan uses elaborate decoration to intensify the visual effect or a complex corner structure of brackets and overhang. So this Sagami Temple, it also uses some visual effects of different complex. So as we can see, they also focus on symmetry where the materials used from di ba na ay center. So the at both ends or the right and the left side of the image kay they have the same size of materials, the colors. Like if it is red, it is red also on the left side. Pag green, green also of the left side. So they also intensify visual effects.
So now I will tackle to you the cross-cultural influences on architecture. So before we tackle on these famous buildings that showcases cross-cultural influences, let's first define what is cross-cultural influence. So when we say cross-cultural influences, that which is assimilated or applied from more than one society, that is cross-cultural influence. Meaning to say, yung isang society, meron siyang ina-adapt na design or element that is inspired from another culture, from another society. That is cross-cultural influence. So, one of the contributing factors of this cross-cultural influences between civilization is the Silk Road. So, the Silk Road was a network of overland and sea trade routes linking Eastern and Western civilizations. So, along this route are the buildings that show cross-cultural influences in their design. So, one of such buildings is the Shrine of Myanmar in Lahore, Pakistan, which is completed around 1635 CE. So, the Shrine of Myanmar in Lahore, Pakistan showcases cantilevered roof, terraced dome, and section facade of the edifice, which was completed around 1635 CE. So these elements display Chinese architecture. They are derived from Chinese architecture. The tripartite arches and geometric ornamental ties naman that is present in the building, they are they are derived from Islamic culture. The next building is the Dome of Rock in Jerusalem. It is considered as one of the most important landmarks in the Holy Land. So the main entrance of the building features a classic Greek colonnade, a gold dome above, and a central tower supporting it, with Western-style arches and colorful Islamic surface and ornamentation, meaning to say the tiles. The Louvre Pyramid. The Louvre Pyramid is one of the world's most famous museums. It was founded in the 12th century but didn't achieve its present form until recently. I.M. Pei's glass pyramid was chosen as the defining element for the new main entry in the 1989. So the architecture is in the French Renaissance style, which is distinguished by formal symmetry, horizontal stability, and restrained embellishment. So they are focused more on the structure of the building rather than the design. So the building looks plain and placid. So the construction of the glass pyramid paid off. The pyramid helped define the public space above the ground while also providing natural light and an airy feel to the underground lobby beneath it. Architecture and Industrial Revolution. So, our Industrial Revolution, in a simple sense, is a transition from agrarian and handicraft economy to industry and machine-dominated manufacturing. So, one of its most significant impact on the 19th century architecture was the mass production of iron and steel in sufficient quantities, making it a viable building material. So one of the challenges kasi before the Industrial Revolution is the making of tall buildings. So before the Industrial Revolution, engineers used wood, brick, stone in making buildings. And when they make tall buildings, they need massively thick walls on its ground floor to support the weight the of the heavy bearing building, therefore limiting the building's height. So they can still make tall buildings but on up to only certain extent because of that limitation kasi. So with the emergence of the Industrial Revolution, forged iron and mill steel became primary materials for these large buildings in France. So heralded not just the Eiffel Tower is not just an icon for France, but also it heralded a new age in materials design and construction. This change is encapsulated in the Iron Lattice Tower built in 1889. So it stands on four huge arched legs just over 1,000 feet high. So this building is not possible if the engineers used steel, used bricks in constructing the building. Kasi, yun nga, the taller the building, the thicker the walls is needed to be on its ground floor. So, another way of constructing buildings is also called the column framing construction, which pushed them up rather than out. So, rather than expanding the width of the building, they opted to increase the height of the building. So, the idea of this column framing construction is that architects and engineers use steel use steel frameworks or skeletons made of steel to create tall and slender buildings. So, Like the flying batches of the 4th century, the steel weight-bearing frame allowed not just for taller buildings, but also for much larger windows. That's all. Thank
Okay, good morning everyone. I am John Paul Mendoza. I'm going to tackle a modern architecture, a new language. First, we had a Bauhaus school in Weber, Germany. It was founded in 1999 in the city of Weimar by German architect Walter Gropius, and its main objective was a radical concept. Because they reimagine the material world to reflect the unity of all arts. As you can see, there is a combination of crafts and fine arts. Second, we have comparative building is Dutch architect Gerrit Rietveld Schroeder House. The flexibility of the interior spaces and the obviously explainer quality of the house both give an edge that distinguishable and unique on every level. This Crowder House is the only building that was designed in complete accordance with the Dutch style style, which was marked by primary colors and pure ideas. It was found on 1917, and it's more iconic because of space and purity of the concept and ideas. It's very obvious naman. Next, we have IBM Plaza Building, one of the last American project designed by Ludwig Mies. This powerful modernist structure occupies a prominent place on the Chicago River, and it has 52 stories and 695 feet long. Its black anodized aluminum exterior provides vigorous expression of the structure, despite its limited range of material and color. And did you know that the building resembles the tower of Federal Center a few blocks away, which were designed earlier but not completed until 1974. Next, we have a falling water home in Pennsylvania countryside for Chicago department store owner Edgar Kaufman. After its completion, Times called Falling Water Wright's most beautiful job, and is listed among Smithsonian's life list of 28 places to see before you die. Diba? Because sa kanindot sa house, na-appear siya sa 28 places kay Smithsonian's na kinahanglan makita before ta mamatay. Next, we have the Guggenheim Museum in New York. Its unique ramp gallery extends up from ground level in a long, continuous spiral along the edges of the building to end just under the ceiling skylight. Next, we have Glass House in New Canaan, Connecticut. As you can see, the building is an example of minimal structure, geometry, the proportion, and the effects of transparency and reflection. And the building is an example of early use of industrial materials such as glass and steel. Last, we have the Sagrada Familia Basilica in Barcelona. On March 1882, construction of the Sagrada Familia. It began on architect Francisco de Paula del Villar. But
Good day everyone, I am Hanilo H. Nervasa, the next reporter for the topic architecture. Okay, so let's proceed to the postmodern and contemporary architecture. Okay, so unsa day kahalahian sa um, postmodern architecture, postmodern contemporary architecture. So when we say modern architecture, kani siya is it only focuses on the relationship between the material and the structure by relating and adapting them to the present technological era. So meaning to say, kani siya diri ang architecture is they are more kind of focuses or gina-emphasize nila ang kanang relationship between sa structure and the materials na gigamit ana nga time. So meaning to say, kung unsa ang kanang technology na kanang present that time, then mo to na mga design na nila gina-adapt o encourage na buhaton in terms of architecture. So however, sa kaning postmodernist architecture, kani siya diri is gina-emphasize nila ang vitality o kanang historical elements in design. So it's not just about making designs for themselves, but making designs together with the historical evidences kana nga building na ilang or kana na building styles na ilang kanang gibuhat. Okay, so let's proceed to kanang definition of the postmodern and contemporary architecture. Okay, so postmodern and contemporary architecture, known as PUMU, means this building design style that values individualism and experimentation. Okay, so in here, it emerged as a movement of against traditional and classical styles, with the goal of making buildings dynamic, enjoyable, while breaking the rules. So in here, gina-abandon sa mga artist or gina-abandon diri ang idea nga sundon jud ang specific rules sa when it comes to kanang building and architecture. So di ba, there are kanang naa jud na siya specific goal, like kanang unsa lang siya na formation, unsa lang siya na area, line, or kanang texture na limiton sa pagbuhat og architecture. So in here, when it comes to kanang making an architecture, mostly naagid na sila ginasunod, di ba? No, mo to akong giingon na moments ago. But then, sa postmodern, instead na kanang i-encourage sa mga artists na sundon ang katong specific role, dili diri gina-encourage ang mga artists na kanang maging creative sila balay, kanang maging imaginatives when it comes to kanang making in architecture. So kanang diri kay mas kanang mas creative ang artist, and kanang gina-ornate nila ang gina-ornate nila ang idea with their own design. So it's very kanang evident na kanang sa postmodern is kanang more on kanang murag it seems like kanang they are more creative, they are expressing what they felt in a way na kanang kung sa ilang idea then ilahang kanang encourage na buhatan na siya. Okay, so what are the characteristics of postmodern architecture? Okay, so here are the four characteristics. So first is the contradiction, second is the asymmetry, third is the humor, and fourth is the fragmentation. Okay, so what is contradiction? Okay, contradiction, postmodernism was a contradiction of all the movements that came before, so it borrowing inspiration from a wide range of culture and design elements to create work that had never been seen by anyone, or never seen before. Okay, so before, there are designs that are prohibited to use, just like at mga simplistic design, mga geometry design. So, di ba kanang before ginabawal gina siya kay lagi mo na sila delikado, and kanang iyahang debris kay murag kanang like dili siya like totally basta kanang dili siya kuan sa mata kay lagi mo anang uban na basig maano na ay crack something, di maguba or like mahugno. So when it comes to postmodernism, nagcontradict na siya na kanang idea, which means na kanang all of those designs that has been used, which kina-apply sa some artists na kanang some artists kanang they usually kanang technique nila sa pagbuhat is kanang nagbuhat sila na kanang never been kanang seen by anyone, or kanang wala pa gyud nakita balay kanang never pa gyud siya nakita sa uban balay kanang siya interesting at the same time kanang bago pa sa ilang pananaw. So in here mostly artists kay kanang naga-adapt pud sila og kanang idea sa uban culture in order for them to create an architecture na kanang ang design is kanang mura pud siya og kanang naapod siya kanang gigikanan good ana. So that's it. Next, proceed. Okay, so the next characteristic is the asymmetry. So it was a pillar of the postmodern movement because of its ability to capture attention and create unique buildings that could stood out. Okay, so asymmetry is kaning one of the characteristics of postmodern. Why? Ano magud siya kanang murag mao na gid siya ang trademark sa postmodern architecture. So, bagay kahit ano, because of its ability to capture attention to the people. And mostly, di ba, sa makita na to is kanang common na dyan siya kanang ang ilaha architecture is kining oblique form din siya, no? Oblique like kung oblique magud siya o forma is kana mura jud siya kana mura ganig bag-o pag sa tong pananaw, like ma-amaze jud kag tan-aw ba, like pleasing ka siya sa mata kay syempre kaning bag-o pa nimo siya nakita, like good. So the third characteristic is the humor. Okay, so an ironic movement of Gaudi art that was perceived as beautiful were used interchangeable throughout the modern era. So here na ay example no kaning Hotel Dolphin in Disney World. So okay, so humor, it is particular feature of postmodern buildings. So in here building do have some humor, just like ating aning photo na example diri kaning Disney World Resort or kaning Hotel Dolphin. So which is kani siya is famous since they use humor or kanang indulgence. So the building itself is kanang colorful, diba, na color itself is kanang orange, like kanang naadyo siya color combination. And the artist itself is combined his skills to create a building na kanang naadyo siya humor. Okay, so the last characteristic is the fragmentation. So postmodern architects were known for creating fragmented buildings that while still connected as one building took an appearance of several different buildings that serve various functions rather. Okay, so in here, postmodern is known for creating fragmented building, but then kuan gyapon siya kanang connected as one gyapon iyahang pagka-form. But then di ba connected as one, but some other kanang part of the building is napud siya lahi nga or na siya various function, or it took different function, pero gyapon siya kanang still kanang isa lang siya ka whole building, but then lahi siya og function. Okay, so for example kani photo diri kaning Guggenheim Museum Bilbao. Sorry for I don't know the correct pronunciation of that word. So in here, the medium itself for creating this building is kanang ang iyahang color is usually nagadepende lang siya sa sunlight, di ba? Naga kanang lahi-lahi kad iyang color, like murag kanang titanium, like wag naay sunlight usab siya, like naay color yellow ba, naabay something blue, like something greenish, like that. Okay, so in that way, the building itself will expose. It will expose and bring new life. Okay, syempre no, because of its ability to because of its formation, because of its variation sa color na titanium, and it offered different aesthetic and daylight done in the evening. Kaya syempre when there's a light, then the color of the na building is mag-expose siya, like lahi yung variation. Okay, so let's proceed to Michael Graves Portland building from 1982. It is most iconic example of postmodernist architecture. So it is a reference to more traditional style is evident in the pattern. So column-like sections and large-scale decorative elements on the exterior walls. Okay, so in here, Michael's work is one of the first postmodern which he relies on more on traditional materials such as reinforced concrete or mga fiberglass. Okay, so Michael's work is iyahang technique or iyahang he implemented a variety of unique designs, which is ang technique niya sa pagbuhat is kanang inani siya kanang lahi ang style sa front or lahi ang sa back, lahi ang each side sa building. So basically every side of the building is different techniques or skills na gina-apply ni Michael. So the next example is the Experience Music Project of Frank Gehry and 2000. So we can totally see how architecture being evolved from contemporary work of Frank Gehry and Zaha Hadid. So mostly work ni Jerry is it is famous for its rolling and bent organic form sa building. So makita niyo mo sa music project no na ang sa edge niya is like naka-bend form yun siya, but then at the same time naka-rolled siya like ningin niyo, di ba? Circle iyang formation. Okay, so Jerry's kanang gestural kanang god pagbuhat niya sa building is kanang iyahang mga sketches or erratic sketches niya is kanang gitransform niya as a building into a kanang computer aided way, kanang CAD. So CAD is kanang known yun na kay siya na sa mga engineering like where kanang mo ilahang ginagamit to create an architecture or any form good or dimension na kanang murag mo na siya ang kanang ilahang application man ata na ginagamit nila para mag-create og kanang buildings like sa sa computer or technology. Okay, so kaning CAD is usually kaning mga architects is kanang di na kay siya lisod no like naman go nag-provide na siya kanang every kanang it makes your work kanang maabot ka sa real world kanang using its parameters, so without needing to build any kanang physical structures or kanang mga models. Like diba mostly sa una kay magbuhat sila og kanang mga kanang mag-build sila og architecture na kanang lang kung dili pag siya like totally sketch pa lang. Ilang way is kanang nagaano gid sila like provide sila materials like ilaha yung ikumpun-kumpun gud ang mga like kanang para makita nila unsa iyang dimension of formation. Pero when it comes to wala naman ta sa modern or contemporary world, then it evolved like na may technology na kaning monica ng CAD, so it makes sense na kanang mas natpadali pud sa mga engineering or mga architects na mag create og idea sa using using technology. So with this, architects are able to view different aspects and perspectives when it comes to building from within a single program. So it will no longer hesitate their time since it is very sa tanan ba like nanagid na ang like inananan sa imuha kung sa mo paghimo og creative na style. Okay, so they have roots in postmodernism but lean towards a contemporary world or contemporary or new modern style. So from postmodernism to the contemporary world, which is nag-evolve na gid siya, and it makes the work or the building itself kanang realistic and kanang sabay na siya sa panahon or sa era na which is kanang karon. Okay, so basically they have so much to do in sculpture as they do with architecture. So though dagan sila na mga art sculpture, but then at the same time architecture itself pod kay syempre mo jud ilahang modern or ilahang like kuan sa ilahang work, which is to make buildings, architectures, or whatsoever. Okay, so the next one is the North Park Rail Station of Zaha Hadid. So Okay, so Hadid's designs use soft and hard geometry with lots of cantilever and strong sculpture quality. So cantilever, it is something na kanang long projecting kuan good beam like kanang or kanang fixed na girdle na kanang isa lang siya og end. So kani si Zaha Hadid is kanang famous jud kay ni siya na art kanang famous jud kay siya na artist. Why? Because kanang daghan kay siya nabuhat good na like kanang nabuhat niya is kanang dili gyud siya basta-basta like impressive, expressive na basta something different jud like pang contemporary from postmodern jud siya until to contemporary style jud iyang design. Basically kanang known pud siya sa radical deconstructivist design. So iyang concept sa pagbuhat og building is kanang futuristic architecture. So futuristic architecture gid iyang which is characterized by kanang mga kanang curving facades, kanang mga sharp angles, kanang mga using materials such as kanang mga steels. So basically Zaha Hadid is kanang daghan siya achievements like for example he became the first female recipient of the Pritzker Architecture Prize. So kani iyang nabuhat na Norpark Rail Station, it is a kanang combination of kanang balancing abstract forms and ornament kanang with utility. So kaning Norpark Rail Station, it is kanang designed by kanang upat siya ka stations along the cable railway tracks, kanang mga kanagong like kanang nay mga sharp angles dira up to the Innsbruck's northern chain of mountain. So as you can see, iyahang roof, di ba? Makita nimo sa roof is like naka-shell good siya form, like something shaped like a shell good siya with a soft contour. So it looks like kanang iyahang mga kuan god kanang mga kanagong nasa iyahang roof is kanang mura siya grazers good na kanang galihok ba glazers kanang something na kanang basta something na kaning massive bodies of flowing moving eyes na di ba makita nimo sa babaw sa iyahang roof is na ay something na ay mga glazers which is kanang nindot siya tan-awon why because of its kanang pag na siya fallen into snow na good siya which kanang mag-compress na siya and it makes sense na kanang nag-appeal pud siya sa appeal sa Norpark Rail Station. So in conclusion, it is very important to know what are the methods and the materials that are used in architecture. So it is very important also to know who are those kanang artists na kanang naghimuan ng architecture for you to be kanang aware if kanang kinsa naghimuan na o unsa na siya kanang unsa iyang mga styles sa pagbuhat, unsa iyang mga mostly materials na ginagamit sa pag-build of architecture. Also, it is important to know how the architecture itself evolved. How does it evolve from postmodern to the contemporary or whatsoever. So it is also important food na makabaluta kung unsa ang mga architecture sa kanang cross-cultural influence sa kanang mga architecture sa China and East Asia. It is because kanang para dili pud ta kaning baguhan ba like something though wala ta nakaadtuan na but then naapod tay nahibal ana gamay for its architectural formation. There are plenty of architecture that are made by different artists, but then wala ta kabalukid sa sila. So this is the moment to know who are they, what are they, and what are their ways of making the architecture more expressive, more impressive, and at the same time pleasing sa mata. O makaamay sa tao like dili mabayaran ang like something good ana. However, sa ano po sa mga architecture sa artist po, di po na mawala ang ilang methods o materials na ginagamit ana. Diba? For example, sa akong mention ka ganina sa katungkuan ni Zaha Hadid. So mostly diba anak ko na iyahang style sa pag is kanang pagbuhat is more on futuristic architecture na characterized by kanang mga curving facades at mga anak ko ganina like something in ana. Okay, so above all, so architecture or the report of my group explains how the architecture form and how it affects from the structure itself. And at the same time, they emphasizes how architecture acts as a reflection of a culture. So artists did kanang dili pud na is sometimes na apoy artist na kanang dili lang kayo kanang ilaha lang mong sarili ilaha po own idea jud like something na apoy some artists na gina-adapt nila ilahang imagine or ilahang kanang mga style sa other culture na ilaha pong nakita which is ilahang gi-adapt gibuhat nila and then gi-apply nila in a different way. At the same time, ang culture itself is nag-vary po siya sa katong ilahang culture. Okay, so architecture is part of our culture. Why? Because it stands as a representation of how we see ourselves and as how we see the world itself. So thanks for today artists who are artistic in making an architecture more wide and more expressive. So that's all for today. Thank you and goodbye.